Well, it turns out that the two men that purport to hold all the power here in the United States are fighting each other. If you're not aware, yes, our imposter president and Space Boy are at odds with each other, with the imposter president saying, I should just pull all of your contracts, your governmental contracts, because that is a waste of money. He's telling the guy who supposedly is in charge of government efficiency through Doge, or was in charge at any rate, obviously started the actual whole idea of Doge. He's telling that guy, your projects are a waste of government money and I should remove them. Counter that with, among other things, Space Boy coming back and saying, well, we all know have not released the Epstein tapes is because you're on them. Holy moly, you guys. So let's talk about it, right? Because this is important. I hate to say it, but these two men control our country to a great degree right now. The Democrats don't have the votes, they don't have the muscle to overcome these things that are being thrown at us. We pretty much are reliant on what the courts can do. And you know what? If they want to start fighting each other and waste all their valuable money, time, energy, and goodwill to their cult members, I think we should allow it. I think this is actually helping us. I'm Susan Lynn. I'm a psychic medium and I predict politics on top of some other things. But today we are going to stick to politics and we're going to be talking about why is it important, right? Like some people are like, oh, they're just acting like man babies, they're just acting like infantile children. And that is all true. But as I just said, this is super important because what is happening is not small. This is not a a little tit for tat, or a s- little fight. Okay, I'm channeling, so sometimes I stumble over the words. I had a different word for it, but it doesn't make sense. It's like tat and scat together. I don't know what that word is, but anyway, it's a fight. It's not small, you guys. I sat on this for 24 hours because I wanted to talk to my guides and I wanted to find out, was this performative? Were they just doing that thing that I know that these people do, where they pretend to fight each other just to create a diversion, or to make it fun and interesting, or whatever? I don't know what they do. It's sort of like keep the masses occupied by the shiny thing, and then they don't know what we're really doing. But this is not performative. This is real. This is truly blood enemies, sworn blood enemies. I don't know what the guides are saying. Uh, and look, nobody wanted Vance. Nobody. Well, actually, nobody. Nobody wanted Vance. We didn't want Vance. The imposter didn't want Vance. Nobody wanted Vance. I would also argue nobody wanted, Space Boy. I can't use their names because my channel's already being suppressed, right? Like I'm getting half of the people that used to see my videos are not seeing them. So I really have to be careful because I'm sort of I feel like I'm on probation. So I'm trying to be careful here. So here's the thing. And this is why it's important that nobody chose these people. This is really, truly important because the imposter who's in the White House, he didn't want Vance. He never wanted that guy. And he certainly doesn't want Musk, Space Boy. He didn't even want a VP. He wants to be king. Do kings have vice presidents? Do they have vice kings? No, they do not. So Vance was foisted, is the word the guys want to use. It was pushed onto him. And the thing about the imposter guy is that he owes favors to people. If you're gonna, it's all about tit for tat, and it's all about quid pro quo. It's all about scratch my back, I scratch your back. It's all about that kind of thing. But within those opportunities, they're power struggles, right? So we're having a relationship, we're having a partnership, right? But I'm boss. Who's boss and who's not boss? Because the thing about the imposter is you've got to dominate him the way Putin does. If you don't dominate him, then he's going to dominate you. That's the way he sees the world. There's winners and losers, right? So in this kind of delicate situation for him, he is owned by Spaceboy and he's owned by Vance because those two people have been put upon him as part of a deal that he made with, Spaceboy. It was, hey, help me win this thing, this Electron. If you guys haven't watched, I did a whole video on there's a court case in New York where they're actually investigating if this thing was improper. You know what I'm talking about? This thing that we did when we all went to the polls, right? There's a state court case in New York that's looking into not only the Senate race, but the presidential race. This is not a small thing. The cracks are starting to show up all around this hastily built structure that they have that's basically a scam. It's all a fraud. Okay. So we now know why he owes Spaceboy. He owes Spaceboy because Spaceboy gave him the win. That's what I would just say with that. So he owes him. He's gotta play ball with this guy. He's got to let this guy come in and tell him what to do to a degree. And, JD was also like, you're going to do this because we're not going to support you. We're going to take the money away and we're going to run someone against you. Basically, it was like, you need us, Peter Thiel, all those people. And look how powerful we are. Look at our bank account. Look at the number of zeros after the decimal point. And now you're going to have to do what we say. So I think it's not a big surprise, right? That the bottom line is they want to get rid of the orange, the imposter guy and put JD in. That's the end game. It's always been the end game. But the thing that I think I've done wrong, and I think all of us have done wrong, is underestimate the imposter. He's like the worst possible version of a cat that has 9 lives. I mean, he's just continues to be able to withstand, go around, and come up again. I mean, if you just look at his whole life, how many bankruptcies has he had? How many times did he come back from the brink of all ruination? Okay, so I wouldn't underestimate him. And I would say that when I look at this energy between Spaceboy and the imposter, I immediately go to the fact that Spaceboy's going to lose. He's going to lose this. He should be very careful, actually. And I think that's what happened. Like as soon as this boiled up and they made those accusations, they both. I think the impression, the energy, the picture I get is they went to their separate corners. Like their handlers came out, the referee came out and separated them and put them in their separate rooms and said time out because the people that even God, Kanye, all these people have come out and said no, don't do it, you guys are better together, don't, because they know that this is dividing the party, this is dividing their power, because you've got the tech brothers, the tech bros, and anybody who's just like in that kind of mindset. Even if you're not a tech bro but you like the idea of Space Boy, well, you're in his camp. If you are in the cult, you're in the other camp. You go on to Twitter, which I refuse to call X, and you can see it all playing out in the actual comments. And even Spaceboy came out with a poll. You can just post a poll there, and it said, should the Republican Party break into two? And you wouldn't believe the number of people who voted and overwhelmingly voted 80% plus that they should break into two parties. Okay. So like I said, this is good for us. I don't see any downside. There's no downside here. I say let them go at it. Let's put them in a cage fight. I don't care. I would also say that the spirit guides have said the Republican Party was likely going to break into two parties, not 100%, but likely going to, if it didn't just burn itself down. I mean, completely down. Like, remember, if you watch for a long time, I saw this vision of Liz Cheney, who's She's staying out. She's staying outside of the fight because she wants them to burn it down. So that then the vision I saw is she's walking through the charred leftover pieces and it's smoldering and she's kicking things with her boot to see if there's anything salvageable, but also to make sure that it's really all burned down. If they burn it down, then I could see Liz Cheney coming in and saying, yeah, that was a failed experiment. This is what the guides continually use in my last several videos, that this was an experiment. They experimented with authoritarianism. They experimented with kingship and landed gentry and all of those things. It's not working. It's not going to work. We are too big and too diverse of a country with 50 independent states. We're a republic. We're not just a small country, with, kind of a cohesive group of people. We're really diverse, and that's what gives us our power. And that's what they're trying to take away because they understand that's what threatens them. Okay. So I think this could cause the Republican Party to really break apart. Now, I think that's why very powerful people have gotten a hold of these two and said, knock it off, right? Like, we have a goal. And, the imposter guy's goal might be to make $7 trillion. You know, Space Boy might be to get all the government contracts and be the king of the world because he owns all the satellites. He owns all the rockets. He's doing things to really take over the world, right? In his mind. I'm saying in his mind. I'm reading the energy. Don't come from me. It's not, 1-800 spirit guides, press 1 for complaints. This is not me. So you have these, and the guides call, here's another reason why you want to call 1-800 spirit guides, is because the guides call them titans. Yeah, like titans, because that's kind of like they loom larger than life, right? Um, but they're going to bring each other down. Even though I do think these powers that be it Peter Thiel or Yarvin or Volt or whoever it is, I don't care who it is, Harlan Crow, the last remaining whatever brother, Koch brother, whatever. I don't care who they are. They have called these two men, I use that word very loosely, and say, sit down, shut up, you're about to mess up. You've got your own little plans, but we have our plans, and we're the real puppet masters. You forget that you serve at our behest, right? So these big, powerful people came out and said, no, knock it off. But here's what I'm telling you energetically, not going to happen, because if you look at both Putin and imposter guy, they hold a grudge. They hold a grudge forever. If they can't take you out right then, they'll take you out tomorrow. If they can't do it tomorrow, they'll do it next week. They'll do it next month. But they never forget, never, ever, ever forget disrespect. And guess what? Musk has gotten too full of himself and he's disrespected this guy. And I think that Space Boy, he doesn't understand the mob. He doesn't understand the crowd he's running in. He really has this egomania. Maybe it's, drug induced. New York Times has already talked about how much drugs he does. So it's public. So I think I can say this here. But whatever it is, he is underestimating. He's really underestimating not only the imposter president, but JD Vance's puppet masters. Okay, so I think this is going to be bad. This is going to be really bad for Space Boy. Last year, when I read about him, I said 2025. The only word the guides would give me was ruination. The actual word ruination, not ruined, not whatever, ruination. I don't know. That's what they say. And they're still saying it. I think that he's going to have a character assassination. I think you're going to start seeing people theoretically not connected to the imposter president, but just people in business start whittling away at him. I just think you're going to see a lot of efforts coming towards him to bring him down. His character, his even his products, like you're going to see attacks on Teslas, you're going to see attacks on those rockets. You're just going to see more and more. It's going to start out small, and then it's going to grow like a tsunami against him. And he cannot withstand this. I don't see Space Boy winning this. I see him fleeing the country. I don't see him necessarily deported, but I see him going on vacation and not coming back, right? Or going for a trip and not coming back. But the thing about it, when I just looked away, I just saw this whole video. The thing about it is again, we go back to the fact that he's not smart enough or privy or streetwise. It's really kind of streetwise. He really doesn't understand. He still believes that he holds all the cards. That's what he believes. And he believes that if he wanted to, he could expose the imposter president, because we all know that he had a hand in getting that person to that place. And he did mention something on Twitter about the ELECTIOM. Again, I can't say certain words. He did mention it. He didn't say, but he kind of obliquely said. So that's a threat. You in the mob, when you're a crook, when you're guilty, you gotta neutralize threats. Okay. That's what I would say about that. So how they do it, I don't know. When it happens, I don't know. But if I were him, I wouldn't be so comfortable. I wouldn't be so cocky and self-assured, because that's going to help him walk right into whatever this backlash is. And I think that there are multiple different power centers, power groups that want to do different things. So he's not only just made one group mad or threatened, really, it's not about being mad. It's about, this guy's a loose cannon and he's over here spouting off stuff that could get us in jail, prison, or whatever. And he has to go away. And I don't see him as a strong, like tough guy. I don't see him like, I think if somebody showed up and roughed him up or gave him some kind of reason to be afraid, I think he would be very afraid. I think he would literally, again, fold like a cheap card table, as like they said before about somebody else. I think that he would fold that's where he flees. That's where he's like, run for your lives, run for your lives. The monsters are out and they're coming for me. Right. So how does that help us? Well, it destabilizes the party. It destabilizes the base. It's not about the party, it's the base. You start having more and more infighting. And as they said just a few minutes ago, the Space Boy fans aren't a fan of the imposter or JD. And the cult is not a fan of Space Boy. So you already had a very tenuous connection. You already had a delicate, a fragile group. Well, now not only is it broken, but they're fighting each other. Now they're fighting each other. I feel like Space Boy's going to find a God, they gave me the word and it's gone. A stand-in. There's another word for it, but a stand-in to shoot shots. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to sort of encourage his base to fight. And I don't mean like physical, I don't think. I mean online. He's going to encourage them to stand up and create havoc and just pick at them, right? Proxy. A proxy is the word I was thinking of. Get some proxies, right? That can do the dirty work for you. And then you can say, oh, it's not me. I can't control those people. They're saying all kinds of things that I don't know what it is. I can't control them. But we all know that he is indeed encouraging them to do that. So I think Space Boy might be more public. His people might be more public because they're tech people. They're going to be out on social media. Whereas we all know imposter president's guy, they're not on social media so much. I mean, they are, but they're just not as adept. I just don't think you're going to see them be as loud or have as much energy. It just doesn't feel like they have as much energy about this as, for some reason, I think Space Boys people are going to be very activated, is what I'm saying. And so you have this thing where perhaps Space Boy goes out, which is what I've seen. But then when we come back to the Imposter King, it's not good for him. This is not good because it's just like that court case in New York about the ELECTION. Once you have discovery, where you say, well, we want to subpoena this person or get this, we want these documents, or, you know, once you start discovery, it's like you start finding all kinds of things out. It becomes public. This is where we are. I feel like a lot of things are becoming public. Or we are now, the public now is ready to see it. We're ready to really start believing it. Again, the scales coming from the eyes of the American people. So I think this is the beginning of the end also for the imposter president. I think it's the beginning of the end for all of them. Now, what I just saw was, you know, if you think about this, there's a lot of strategy going on in this. And then you see the puppet masters of JD, like going, yeah, 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 let them take each other out. We don't have to work. We don't have to do anything. Let the trash take itself out, is what I just heard. That's what they're thinking. And then they think JD is going to walk right in. Now, for the record, JD came out on Twitter and said, I support the president. So, like people were saying kind of jokingly that JD's old enough now and he picked the parent that he wanted to live with. You know what I mean? Because it almost seems like that. Like his parents are arguing and they're divorcing and he picks, to stay with the imposter president. But that's because he wants to be the president, right? He needs to stay in line. He needs to align himself with that direction. So he's thinking these two guys are going to take each other out and I'm going to waltz right into the White House. And I don't see that. I don't see him being waltzed into the White House. There's pushing and shoving, energetically speaking, there's pushing and shoving, and people are, JD is just pushed and shoved, and nobody knows what's going on. They push him that way, they push him this way. In other words, there's not a clear, it's not like he's like, all the things fall down, all the obstacles that were blocking my way, Space Boy, imposter president, fall down, and I just waltz through them. That's not what I'm seeing. I'm seeing like confusion and bumping. He's being bumped, and there's nobody leading him. There's nobody saying, this way, sir, this way, sir. No, it's just like everybody's bumping him and he's just like, what's going on? Like, why am I, what, he just keeps getting bumped around and he doesn't know what's going on. That's not a clear path to the presidency. I don't see that for him. If he gets there by some kind of hook or crook accident, I don't see him there for long. So, and I certainly don't see this all playing out for another 4 years or 3 years or even 2 years or even 1 year. I see this all falling apart by the end of the year, this year, 2025. And that's, we need not just the court case in New York, but we need the court case in New York and plus the other VOTING group that's looking into all those things. And then we also need the fighting, the infighting and the tussling and the dividing of the power base. And then unfortunately, we need the Republicans to show everybody who they really are and probably create havoc or create hardship, because these R's are voting for their own hardship, as we know, right? We know this, but they can't seem to figure it out. They can't seem to put 2 plus 2 together to come up with, oh, snap, I've been voting for my own demise. But this is kind of where we are. This is where we're going into energetically. The scales fall from the eyes. They're seeing Space Boy. They're seeing the imposter president fighting each other. They're seeing their Medicare, their Medicaid, all these things kind of get diminished and get harder to get. Their social security's got problems. They can't travel. People are being, abducted off of their street, their favorite waitress, their favorite, whatever, construction worker, their favorite neighbor, their favorite doctor, whatever it is. Their sons, wives, husbands, wife, whatever is getting disappeared. This is coming to Main Street, USA. And that's when the final division, the final kind of explosion happens to bring this all down. So I guess I've caught you guys up on what I think is going to happen, or what I'm feeling through my spirit guides and the energy about what's going to happen with this situation. Yes, it is stupid, and it's funny. It would be funny if it wasn't the two men that kind of hold the nuclear codes. You know what I mean? It would be funny if it was two men that were, homeowners on your street or something, I guess. But no, it's not funny like this. It's I guess if you can laugh, good. But I think this is maybe not funny, but I think it's good news. I really think it's good news. It just goes to show that, as the guide said last year, this is all built on a house of cards. It's not a house of concrete. It's not a house with a strong foundation. It's a house of cards. And one card gets nicked, pushed, the whole thing is coming down. And this is where we are, right? This is where we are in that process. Thanks so much for checking out this video. My next video is going to be on Palantir. Yes, the company that is everywhere. It's everywhere in your life that you don't even know it is, especially in the government. And they are scraping and compiling our data. What are they doing with it? Why do they want this data? What does it mean to you? So be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like, comment, or just look for me every once in a while, because, as I said, my videos are being suppressed. It's cool. We'll figure out what to do. We just have to keep doing what we do, right? We have to use we have to live in the world we're in. And this is the world I'm in, right? So I'm making the best of it. So take really good care of yourself. As I've mentioned, I've got online communities. I've got a wonderful class coming up. If you're interested in that, please hit the description or go to my website, SusanLynnMedium.com. Online communities where you can feel safe and supported and have an opportunity to learn, have an opportunity to get readings from me, all kinds of opportunities for you, for free, also premium, all kinds of things, right? So check it out, SusanLynnMedium.com. Take really, really good care of yourself. We are gonna get through this. Trust me, we are going to get through this. It's just going to come to a head this summer. And that means that we have to keep our wits about us. Okay. I'll see you really soon.